Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Easy Equities webinar about Easy Australia. It's great to have all of you. We've had over 1,000 people register for this webinar, and we're really excited to chat this morning to our man down under, Bradley Kaplan, who's going to tell us everything about Easy Equities Australia. As always, I'm your host, Carel. I work in the brand team. I would prefer to be behind the scenes, but Standwa, our head of content, makes me do this. So that he can answer all the questions. So hit Standwa up. He'll answer all your Q&As. He'll also make sure that this webinar is posted after the session and ask your questions. We're going to jump right into it. Good morning, our side, Bradley. What time is it your side?
5 p.m. my side.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us. And you better do a good job so that you earn your drink. And a good job means telling all our Easy Equities users how to invest in Australia. So to kick off, what can we invest in Easy Equities Australia? What instruments have you made available to us?
How's it, Carel? Thanks for having me. I'll start off, let me give a bit of a background about Easy Equities and Australia, and then we can get into what you can invest in and how you can invest. So for the last few years, I've been wanting to work abroad, and Easy Equities at the same time has had a plan of a global expansion. Now, we've been working together to find the right place for us to start. We've done our research. We looked at Asia. Asia has the numbers, which is good for the business, but a different culture and language which made it difficult. We went to Singapore with the company to do some market research on the ground there, and we landed up choosing Australia. The reason is Australia has a similar market environment to what South Africa had when we started Easy Equities in South Africa. That being the main participant in the market has the majority share of the market. And that's in Australia, just like it was in South Africa. The other thing is one of our partners in South Africa has already set up in Australia, and therefore we're able to use their infrastructure for a soft landing, which we've utilized. The biggest problem was the time difference, and hence why we needed someone on the ground. So I made my way over last year, March. I was here for 3 months to set up a business and get it licensed to be able to trade in Australia. I then made my way back to South Africa. When I made my way back, we started on developing the platform and getting it ready for the Australian market. And that took about 8 months. And beginning of March this year, I made my way back to Australia to finalize the project and to get it ready for launch. It was about a week before COVID restrictions, so I got in just in time. So that was the story of Australia. That involved 2 projects. The first project being offering Australian shares to South Africans, and the second one being offering Easy Equities in Australia to Australians. Now, we thought Australia is a great market for South Africans to invest in. The same reason we chose Easy Equities going to Australia. There are many benefits about Australia for South Africans to invest in. It's a stable market. So when the tides are smooth, it kind of seems boring. But what we've seen currently with the volatility in politics and the economy, mainly due to COVID, you want a place that is stable. And that's when Australia has really shown its advantage, with the Australian dollar gaining 10 to 20% on the other currencies in that time. And the market's doing well, which is good. Then
Brad, before we talk a little bit more about the Australian market, because we're keen on your insights and we're getting some good questions. So before you delve a little bit into that, can you just set the scene for the new Easy Equities units and just tell us what we can invest in. Can we invest in 5 shares, everything that's available, ETFs? Just give us an idea of the instruments, and then we'll delve a little bit more into the market.
Cool. So on EasyEquities, we've made it available for South Africans to trade all 300 shares in the ASX 300. What that means is the 300 biggest shares in Australia. And we've also given South Africans access to the top 60 biggest ETFs in Australia.
And in this first week that you've launched, what have you seen? Because I know that you're, like many easy people, fascinated by the data. So are people buying, 5 or 6 shares, or what is the purchasing behavior?
So I was very surprised in the first week. We put 360 shares to buy on the platform. I thought clients would only trade maybe the top 50. Clients have traded 320 out of the 360 shares offered on the platform, which is very surprising. There's been more than 3,000 trades done, which is also surprising. That's a lot, especially for a market that is closed when most South Africans are sleeping. It shows that South Africans, and specifically EasyEquities clients, have knowledge of markets, and they're investing in what they think they should.
That's great. So Brad, maybe tell us a little bit, because I know that some of our colleagues would be hardly surprised, because our users have been asking for diversification, and the product that you and the team have designed, I think, talks a lot to that. But just in terms of timing, when is the Australian exchange open? So what is the time period on the Easy platform that it's open?
So it opens at 2 and closes at 8 a.m. in South Africa.
Does that mean I can only trade between 2 and 8 a.m.?
So if you're up between 2 and 8 a.m. in South Africa, you're able to trade while the markets are open. If not, EasyEquities gives the opportunity to clients to place orders while the market's closed. So throughout the South African day, you can buy shares throughout the day. And as soon as the market opens the next morning, your trades will be executed on the market.
So maybe some advice from the marketing team. It's a little bit like drunk texting, which Stunt was learned with many girlfriends. It's not a good idea. Is make sure that you're sober and know what you're doing at 2 a.m. If I'm placing a trade, though, during the day, what price am I getting, Brad? I mean, isn't it a bit of a risk? How would the pricing work?
Yeah, so the price that you would see on the platform is the closing price from that day, if the exchange is closed. So let's start with the exchange being open. When the exchange is open, you see a 15-minute delayed price on the platform. And that means that while you're searching for your shares, you can see the price that it traded 15 minutes ago. But when you execute your trade, when you buy a share, it gets executed on the market at the best bid or offer at that time. So you're trading at a live price. You're just viewing a 15-minute delay price. That's so one way that
users, sorry to interrupt you, but the same way that easy users are used to purchasing everything else. So nothing strange there.
That's exactly it.
And then
when the market's closed, the price that you see is the last traded price, the closing price from that day's trading. And you put in a value amount that you would like to trade. And as soon as the market opens the next day, your trades will go through. Your order will be executed at the open.
And is there a way that I can protect myself if I want to specify the price that I'm prepared to pay? Any functionality
Yeah, there is. There's a new functionality that EasyEquities has put on the platform called the care order. And what this care order does, it allows the client to put a maximum price that they would want to trade the share at. So if the last price was $260, I can say, I want to buy $20 worth of the share, but don't place the trade for me if the share opens the next day at more than $260.
Cool. So to summarize, between 2 a.m. and 8 a.m., EasyEquities users can buy the shares, and that will be, as we know, at a 15-minute delayed price. Otherwise, we can buy outside the market, open times in Australia, and we can protect ourselves by limiting the price that we're prepared to pay. As always, more information is available in our help center. So one thing that we've learned is that the hundreds of thousands of EasyEquities users are smart and they're able to help themselves. So support.easyequities.co.za as general information, and we'll talk a little bit more specifically about some of the Australian intricacies. But before we do, Brad, I want to ask you, how do I get my money? How do I use my money to buy? I mean, do I need to do foreign exchange? How do I get Australian dollars? What's the process?
So EasyEquities has got SARB approval to take clients' money offshore. What that means for the user is they can deposit rands onto the platform, into the EasyEquities account, and through a functionality on the platform called EasyFX, they are able to transfer their rands into either US dollars or Australian dollars. This process happens once a day at 10:30 a.m. South African time, which means if you do your transfer before 10:30 in the morning, you will have your either US dollars or Aussie dollars the same day in your account.
Okay. And maybe just to remind users, when you do any kind of deposits or financial transactions, please be sure to use the correct reference number. We have some users who like to share the pet names of their boyfriends or their ID numbers or the lottery numbers, but it is much better if you do your easy account number, and it's very detailed there on the deposit page. And there are various ways that you can deposit, as we all know. So ETFs, credit cards, etc. So if I'm understanding you correctly, Bradley, I deposit as an EasyEquities user money, and I then use the FX functionality to get Australian dollars. Is my Australian account automatically open, or what do I need to do for that?
So you need to, in order to trade in your Australian account, you need to activate that on the platform. There's an FAQ on how to do that, but I can run you through it quickly. There, in your profile on the top right of your platform, there's a drop down that says activate account types. Within that activate account types section, you are able to turn on your EasyEquities AUD trading currency, so your Australian account.
So you're making that sound very easy. Is it as simple as that? Go to the top right-hand nav, drop down, activate account, and press a button.
It's as easy as that. And once you've activated your account, you'll then have the ability to transfer within EasyFX.
Okay. So now let's get back to what I'm going to buy. So EasyEquities user, I'm keen for some diversification. I'm keen on Australia, and you're going to tell us a bit more, not just political stability, but some other reasons why Australia. How do I choose what I invest in? I mean, I have no idea what the top 300 shares are. What would your suggestion be for users?
So the first thing for users is to do some research, and we're lucky to have analysts on our platform who provide some research for our clients so they can see some shares and find out some more information. We have Intellidex who will be offering research on the Australian ETFs, and that's probably my favorite part of the market, ETFs. It's the easiest way to get exposure to the large part of the market without being specific in what you're investing. So probably the lowest risk you can take when investing in shares because of the diversification. There are great ETFs in Australia that give exposure to not only Australia, but to Asia as well, which is the fastest growing part of the world at the moment. So it's clear why people want to invest in Asia. There's a ASX 300 ETF in Australia, which has the 300 biggest shares. So all the shares that we offer on the platform, you're able to buy all those shares as one ETF. What I like about that is in the ASX 300, there's small caps, which means that there's small companies in the index, which normally don't make it into an index. If you look at the top 40, or if you look at the S&P 500, that's the biggest shares in the country. The ASX 300 has many small caps in it, which is a great way to invest in small companies who are starting out which have large potential for growth. And you've seen that in a few of the shares. One specific share being Afterpay. Buy now, pay later in Australia is probably the biggest talking point in the market at the moment. And what that means is you can go into a shop or an online shop and you can buy something online and get the product now and only pay over the next 4 weeks with 0 interest. And those shares are doing really well. I mean, Afterpay is up about over 700% since March, since its lows in March. Tencent has invested in Afterpay. They're pretty much worldwide. The best performing share in my portfolio is, funnily enough, Domino's Pizza. And during COVID, I just took the view that people would be staying at home with not much money, looking to order pizza takeaways. And one of the cheapest in this market is Domino's. They've seen 70% growth since March. So there's a few good shares.
Yeah, and I think you've illustrated a few great points from an EasyEquities perspective. Buy the shares you use, know and love, talk to your mates, read up about it, but at the end also go with your gut. Now, Bradley, I want to ask you, if I say the word Liverpool, what emotion comes forward?
Well, it's probably been, besides COVID, one of the greatest years of my life. It's the first time in my life that I've seen Liverpool about to win the title. In 2 days' time, you'll see them lifting the trophy. Also, the picture behind me is, you can relate it to COVID, but it comes from the Liverpool anthem being at the end of the storm, there's a golden sky. So it's nice.
I had to ask that because some of our users were very worried that you never smile. So, David, I just wanted to prove that Bradley does smile. But now, with one fell swoop, we'll prove how he'll never smile again, because you won't in your lifetime see Liverpool win again, Bradley. So glad that you enjoyed that fleeting little moment. Yeah, Bradley takes Australia and EasyEquities Australia very seriously. He's also newly married. And COVID, it's been a lot for our Mr. Bradley Kaplan, CFA from South Africa. So, Brad, why did, and you started talking a little bit about this, but why did EasyEquities start with Australia rather than Nasdaq or exchanges like that? You mentioned some similarities with our market, but is the intention that Australia is it for EasyEquities?
No, Australia we see as our first country that we're going to expand to globally. And like I said, one of our biggest partners in South Africa was already set up in Australia, which made it a lot easier for us to leverage off their current infrastructure. We were able to obtain licenses through that partnership, and that it's obviously very beneficial having that partner on the ground with you. The other thing is the culture is not too different. The language is the same. So it feels quite local being here compared to the other markets that we researched previously. That doesn't stop us from going into those markets. We just thought this is a good stepping stone to get into probably the Asian markets.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think many of the people, as I said, we had over 1,000 people register for this webinar, and many of them would have had Charles Savage, the CEO of EasyEquities, speak. I mean, Charles doesn't sit still, doesn't sleep, and has aspirations for other territories for sure. So people have definitely got other opportunities to look forward to going forward. Brad, I'm interested that a lot of our questions are around costs, the cost of activating your your Australian account, trading costs, and simplistically, and then you can give some more detail. I want to say to users, our Easy Australia offering follows the same principles as the rest of our offering. There aren't any minimums. We're into democratizing. We don't hide any costs. It costs you nothing to activate your Australia account. As an EasyEquities user, for free, you get your ZAR account, USD, TFSA, Australia, RA, you've got access to Easy Properties. But maybe just talk us through a little bit more of the trading costs, Brad. Any major hidden costs for that? Have I lost Bradley there with my hectically technical question? Llewellyn, can you just give me a heads up there, please?
Yeah, seems like Bradley's internet just got stuck. We're just trying to reset.
I expect all countries to be as efficient as South Africa, so no worries. And Bradley did mention, as people come home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there is some delay with the internet, but there he's back. I thought I'd scared you away with the cost question, Bradley. So tell us what you're charging us to trade Australia shares on the platform.
Yeah, so in South Africa, to trade South African shares, you pay 64 basis points. What that means is you pay 64 cents for every 100 Rand traded. And to trade US shares and Australian shares, we've brought it in at the exact same cost. So for every $100 you trade on the platform, you're still going to be charged 64 cents.
Great. So it's yeah. Brad, and then on the cost, tell us a little bit about the exchange rate. So in moving my rands through FX, is that a fixed exchange rate for a month, a day? How does that work?
Yeah, so like I touched on previously, at 10:30 a.m. in South Africa every day, there's a rate that gets locked in, and that all clients before that rate will be transferred at the 10:30 a.m. rate, and all clients after that will be transferred at the following rate.
Okay, great.
So if you go on the platform and do an EasyFX transfer, you can lock in the FX rate that you will get the following day at 10:30 a.m. and you can cancel that transfer anytime before 10:30.
Cool.
Meaning that if the currency goes in a different way and you can get a better rate, you can cancel that and wait for a better rate.
Cool. And for those asking more detailed questions, a reminder, support.easyequities.co.za, and you can search FX and get all the information. And Standwa will also be answering and giving you some details and links to those FAQs to make sure that you understand and how the FX works. And Brad, getting my money back in the country, how do I do that?
So we don't have the functionality on the platform to do easy FX transfer back to South Africa currently. So all transfers back to South Africa have to be sent from our bank in either Australia or America to your South African bank account. The problem with that is that we're not responsible for those costs. So we're unable to control the bank fees that are charged by your bank when transferring the money. In the coming future, we are busy building the functionality and getting all the approvals in order to bring your money back on the platform.
Great. And maybe it's worthwhile just telling our audience that is how EasyEquities operates. Our brand strategy is not to waste money on advertising. We rely on word of mouth to get clients, and we spend our brand money on our users and on functionality. And we look at data and feedback from our users on what functionality they want, and we work at increasing that. And so I'm interested, Brad, if you can tell us, are there familiar brand names that we could invest in Australia? I mean, are there mining houses or financial services companies that we would know in Australia?
So there are a couple. There are some dual listed companies, so like BHP Billiton and South 32 that you'll be able to trade on the JSE are listed in Australia as well. There's the biggest share in Australia is Commonwealth Bank. I'm not sure if that's familiar, but it's one of the biggest banks in the Southern Hemisphere. And there are many shares, if you go through on EasyEquities, that look familiar. There's Coca-Cola that's listed here. Like I said previously, Domino's, there's a lot of retailers. There's Woolworths, who operates in Australia as well, and they listed on the Australian exchange as well.
And Brad, I'm interested, we had a recent webinar, and there's been lots of PR and write-ups about a South African company called Renogen. Last Financial Mail had a really interesting article about Renogen, and they have a dual listing in Australia. So people would be able to access them via Australian Stock Exchange as well.
Yeah, that's correct. They're a small company in South Africa and went to Australia and listed on the ASX. It's a great way to provide liquidity to the share, and you're able to trade Renogen in Australia or South Africa.
Yeah, and I'd be interested, since you're the CFA and clever with this stuff, and I'm the dwarf marketer, your view on this. But it seems to me that in the past, buying and selling of shares was really limited to rich people and hotshot asset managers. And of course, they still have a major role to play. But with companies like EasyEquities and the hundreds of thousands of users, do you think there's going to be more of an interest in small caps like Renogen? Because personally, I think yes, because people realize that small doesn't mean low value. There could potentially be major value in it.
Yeah, definitely. I also think that clients deal with small caps and small to medium enterprises on a day-to-day basis. So they're familiar with those brands. And one of our biggest investment tips is invest in the brands you love and the brands that you know. So, and those small caps are normally, or the small shares that are listed on the exchange are normally the shares that you deal with on a day-to-day basis that are helping you.
Cool. Brad, we've got a couple of users that are struggling to find your ETF on the ASX 300. Can you give us a little bit more of a clue?
Yeah, it's called the Vanguard Australian Index.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Intellidex, who do a sterling job in South Africa on ETFs, are going to be offering some detailed analysis for users as well on Australian ETFs.
Yeah. So we've teamed up with Intellidex in South Africa to provide us research on the South African ETFs. And going forward, they're going to be providing us research on the Australian ETFs too.
Cool. Okay, now I've got a job for you, Brad. It's a big job. It's like asking Liverpool to win a second time. So don't get it wrong. I need you to do a brand pitch here for our South African EasyEquities users, because you have come up with an idea of how we can give EasyEquities users in South Africa some dollars into their Australian account. And we're going to launch that next week from a brand perspective. But maybe you can talk a little bit about that now, please.
Yeah, so one of our biggest, if not our biggest, marketing campaigns in South Africa is referrals, and our community is great at doing it. There is a referral fee or referral income that they sorry about that, a bit of a technical error there. And the EasyEquities clients receives 50 Rand into their account for every referral that they do. What we want to do is for South Africans to refer people that they know in Australia, and we won't be giving clients 50 Rand into their account for referring an Australian. What we'll be giving is $10, which is equivalent to about 120 Rand currently, into the South African EasyEquities account.
Great. And then the South African basically gives $10 to the Australian. Is that right?
That's right. The Australian who gets referred will also get $10 into his new EasyEquities account in Australia.
So 10 Australian dollars for the South African, 10 Australian dollars for the new Aussie client.
That's correct.
Cool. So it's a good way to spoil some of your friends and family in Australia and give them the opportunity to start investing on EasyEquities. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Brad, will you give us ETF again? You've started lots of excitement for people into the Vanguard.
Sure. I can give you the share code and mark it easier when clients are searching it.
You know, Bradley's CFA nature was kicking in. There's no way he's now going to let it go.
The easiest place for me to find it is in my EasyEquities account, so it shouldn't be long.
Cool. Now, Brad, we had a little bit of a review from one of the EasyEquities users, and we love user-generated content. We don't curate that. We love users having freedom to express their views because we're an agnostic platform. And one of our guys, Higo, wrote a little bit of a review on a share called A2 Milk, is it?
Yeah, A2 Milk. So A2 Milk is a company that have found a new way to produce milk. It's still full dairy milk, but it's made up of different enzymes, or I'm not too sure, I'm not too well versed in dairy, seeing as the lactose intolerant, so I try to stay away from that. But they're doing really well. They've got a lot of traction. They in China currently, UK, America, and in Australia. Fast growing new age milk company.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, there's interesting things. Go for it. Give us the code.
Just give me a second. Sorry.
The anticipation is killing us, Bradley. But I think it is well worth. By the time that you found it, Standwa's organized it.
Probably has.
Cool. So while you look for that, and just interrupt me when you've got it, please. The users that are asking around the referral fee, it's all done automatically. So you've got a unique referral code, every Easy user, and you can get that in the nav at the top, the navigation. There is the information about your unique referral code, and you can tweet that out, put it on Facebook, send it via email, and we list there as well the people that you have referred, and you can see if they've activated their account, if they've invested. And our digital assets team, headed up by a guy called Tristan, works hard at automating all of this stuff. So it's seamless. It really is as easy as you sending your code, and your person will use that to activate their account. Brad.
Yeah, cool. It's called Vanguard Australian Shares Index, ETF, share code VAS, and that's the ASX 300 index.
Now say that again slowly. Get more questions.
Vanguard Australian Shares Index, ETF, and the share code is VAS.
And let me jump in before Bradley says anything more. Bradley's not advising anybody to buy that ETF because we are an agnostic platform. So you need to decide what's right for you. So please do the research, please check it out, and make sure that that's the right instrument for you to buy.
Yeah, there's no personal advice involved there. And the nice thing about the ETFs in Australia, which I like a lot, they mainly the big ETF providers from America, and they found a way to reduce the costs close to almost zero. So the annual cost to invest in an ETF is like 1 to 3 basis points. So very close to zero on an annual basis, which is great for the investor looking to reduce fees.
Brad, while we have you, explain to retail investors what a basis point is. You speak about it like we're all supposed to know.
So it's a percent of a percent, meaning that 10 basis points is 0.1%, 0.1%.
So let's get personal a bit, Bradley. Why is a CFA, so somebody who can work at any financial institution, keen and part of EasyEquities Retail Revolution? What's the thing that makes you excited? Why did you choose this rather than going to a big financial company?
Well, the first thing is that we aligned on the investment strategy between myself and EasyEquities. I was previously in an asset management role, and I definitely preferred the DIY investing than investing in a fund with high costs. I was always of the belief that why try beat the fund manager why try beat the index if you can just invest in the index on the platform? And that's what I do on a monthly basis. I invest in the index and beat probably over 90% of asset managers just by investing in the index. So that's the first thing. And I really enjoy educating and helping retail investors take full control of their investments. I think it's a very powerful thing that EasyEquities has given retail investors in South Africa the opportunity to invest and to be in control of their finances.
And we've mentioned this before, but if you look, for instance, at our Instagram, and our teammate Bonolo runs that superbly, in my biased opinion, but we're featuring regularly there some easy investors, as we like to call them. And it is phenomenal to see the diversity of people on the platform. I mean, there are people who invest $50 a month. There are people that are investing millions a month, young, old. But for me, the common denominator is people, when the light bulb goes on, that you can do it for yourself. That, you know, this indoctrination, I think, that many of us have, that you can't do it. And so it really is great. And now we can all invest overseas. I mean, not long ago, who would have thought we could just invest in Australia as easily as you've said?
Yeah, so there's always been huge barriers to entry for international assets and shares in South Africa. There's been high minimums, extremely high minimums and high costs, which made it unavailable to the general retail investor. I mean, a great example is one of our clients with $100 has placed 84 trades in the last week on the ASX, which
That's
is
brilliant.
Which is amazing. And by giving fractional share ownership to clients, it opens up the new world of investing, that you are able to do that. You can trade for 84 times with $100.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think it's a strategy for people also to learn about shares, to see how they do, and to track their performance. So it's very exciting. So Brad, I want to get to a bit of a close and summarize a few things. So please jump in and add on as well. So the people who are listening now, if they haven't activated their Australian account, top right-hand nav, activate accounts, and just slide the button there. They next need to make sure that they've got money, Australian dollars, to trade, and they do that through FX transfer, and that's also on the on our nav navigation bar. So just FX there, and then that will take a day or so before they have the dollars in their account. And then from there, it's easy.
Before 10:30 in the morning, they'll have it the same day in their account.
Cool. So there might be a bit of pressure on our finance team. Those of you who've been following Charles on our social media, EasyEquities users have been flat out investing the last couple of months and doing some amazingly interesting and fantastic things. And then I buy my ETFs. And just as a reminder, we've got 60 ETFs, Australian ETFs. And
yeah,
you said
the top 60 ETFs and the top 300 biggest shares in Australia. And one thing that I want to add is one of the best things about our platform is the diversity between age, gender. We're close to 50-50 on male-female investors, which is amazing and very different to the current financial world. We haven't seen those same numbers in Australian clients. So if I can just give a shout out to the females to not be so risk averse and to start investing in Australian shares.
Yeah, women investors do amazingly well. It's fascinating to track that data. Really smart investors. Thanks for that, Brad. And maybe you can also help me now as an EasyEquities user. Am I correct in saying, so just after 9 every morning, our time, I can start trading Joburg Stock Exchange. I do that to sort of late afternoon. I can start trading USD, start late afternoon. And then there's only a short gap before I can start trading Australian dollars. Is that right? So I can pretty much trade 24/7 just about.
Yeah, that we're almost at 24/5 investing, so Monday to Friday from 2 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. You can trade pretty much before, when you wake up, before work, when you're at work, when you're at home, when you get home from work, or even after dinner.
That sounds after you've eaten your cheap Domino's pizza that you've invested in. Good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brad. We wish you luck with dealing with the sadness of Liverpool never winning again, because that's a sure thing. We wish you luck with EasyEquities Australia doing well, because that's a sure thing. I want to say to the users, please go to the FAQs in our help center. Bradley's also on social media. EasyEquities Australia is keen to engage. And it's one of the best and worst things, in my opinion, at EasyEquities. We're all online 24/7, wanting to engage, and so hit us up. Big shout out to Standwa, who is our short, powerful, smart head of content, who puts these things together, and is a little bit of a stealthy ninja. But hit Standwa up. Watch out for his mailers today on our property platform. For those of you who haven't yet checked out Easy Properties, 2 of the properties are oversubscribed. One is over 50%, so get in. A couple of days left to explore diversification there. So thanks very much, Brad. Have a good evening in Australia. To the EasyEquities users, thanks for joining us. Have a great day. Happy investing, and be well. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Thank you. Cheers.